Well, welcome to another one of these videos where we look at different pieces of repertoire, and today again we're looking at organ music. Unlike the previous couple of videos though, today we're going to look at a whole volume of music. And in fact this is very much from the simpler side of music. I've showcased a couple of pieces so far which have been sort of grade 5, 6, 7 standard. Today I'm looking at a collection of pieces specifically written for use in the Catholic Church, and they are for manuals only, and so there's no need to use a pedal board. Everything is played on the keyboards. Today we'll be demonstrating, as you can see, we're in St Mary's Cathedral using our beautiful Schumacher organ here to demonstrate some of these pieces. Now, this book is available on Amazon, although that may only be in America. I've actually got it on my iPad here, and it's available completely free as a download. If you're somebody who prefers to use actual paper copies, there is actually an instruction here. Catholics may print these interludes out, and so you can use them on paper, put them into folders, and so on. It does say on here it can be purchased from Amazon.com, but I know not whether it can be purchased from Amazon.co.uk. If it can, then as well as a link to download this book, I will also put a link in the description of this video where it can be ordered. Well, this piece includes a number of, this volume includes a number of pieces often based on familiar or less familiar plainsong themes. So as I just read down the contents list here, we've got an Asperges May, Jesu, dulcis, memoria, various movements from the masses, there's a Sanctus there and a Kyrie, Pange Lingua, and so on. And so it's a whole selection of different Ecce Panis Angelorum there, of different movements. There are several here labelled sine nomine, without name, and they include some very familiar composers. Well, what I'm going to do today is just demonstrate a few of these movements, and occasionally I've said it can be played by entirely on manuals, and indeed they can, but one little trick which works for other things as well as for these pieces, in some of them, I'm going to hover my foot over the tonic note, and then perhaps on the final note of phrases, I might just use it. So there's a little phrase here that ends on the tonic, so I'm going to go, and then just add the pedal here. And that requires me to do nothing really than just have my foot ready. But that phrase works perfectly well without using a pedal. And it's absolutely fine. So what I will do is we'll just have a look at some of these pieces, and then I'll just play through. I'll play some of them in full, some of them I'll just play little snippets of them just as an introduction. What I have also done though with this video is put what are known as YouTube chapters. So if you're listening to a piece and you think, well, actually, I've had enough of listening to that, or if you're listening to me speak and you will definitely have had enough of listening to that, then actually you can just skip on to the next point in the video. And again, those chapters are in the description. On some of your screens, you might have them down the side of the screen. It might be underneath the screen, or you might just on that little draggy thing at the bottom, just be able to go straight to the next chapter to move on to the next piece when you've heard enough. I've said a lot of the pieces are based upon plain chant, and the very first piece in the book, and so that's the first piece I'm going to play, is it says based on a work by Dom Alphege Shebbeare, and it's the Asperges May, sometimes used at the beginning of a mass in place for penitential rite, where as the water is sprinkled. And for many, I'm sure you'll recognise and be familiar with the plainsong melody, Asperges May, and so on, and it's used here in this piece. Sometimes, as in this instance, just the incipit, the plainsong melody is sometimes written out at the top. And indeed, in this particular one, the words are written above the plainsong notes. So here we are, the very first piece in this collection. If you notice, but actually quite a lot of the pieces follow this same form, where there's an introductory section, and then a second section, and then at the end of that, it links back, and you play the opening again. But of course, that also gives flexibility, that if the liturgical action that is happening whilst you're playing this, or if you need to stop the piece early or carry on longer, you can of course do multiple repeats or just stop at the halfway point and so on. So we'll just continue to work our way through the book. Now, quite a lot of the pieces in here were actually written by Dom Gregory Murray. Many of you will be familiar with Dom Gregory Murray's work, and for example his New People's Folk Mass. And there's quite a lot of these simple organ pieces in the collection. And I'm just going to play his Jesu dulcis memoria. Jesu dulcis memoria. Again, just the incipit is placed at the top. You may have spotted in some of these, I change keyboards. I'm using both keyboards, the louder at the top and the quieter at the bottom in this instance on a cathedral organ. But you can play it without changing any of the stops, without changing keyboards. Indeed, because it's written for manuals only, these will work also on a piano or on a keyboard without any pedal section at all, or without different manuals. It's a very, very flexible collection of pieces. particular piece then I played entirely on the manuals, no use of the pedals at all. And again, you'll notice that was one of those pieces where there's a first section, a contrasting middle section, and then just a repeat at the end. There are some though that are through composed, and this is an example of that again by Dom Gregory Murray, sometime organist at Downside Abbey, of course. And this again is a plainsong based piece, this time based on the Alma Redemptoris Mater. Let's have a listen. I won't play the whole of this piece, I'll actually just stop this part way through. So that's just a little selection of some of the plainsong based pieces. I mentioned that later on in the book there are several that are entitled in the index sine nomine, without name. And these are by a variety of composers, some just taken straight from Organ Repertoire. And this is actually one by Johann Sebastian Bach, and his Prelude in E minor. For those interested in such things, BWV 555, my goodness me. So I'll just play a little bit of this and we'll see how this one goes. Again, manuals only. Lovely little gentle reflective piece of Bach there. Now actually the very final piece I'm just going to demonstrate from this collection is actually based upon one of those pieces that I absolutely loathe. And it comes from having first played this piece as a continuo player on a harpsichord, where for goodness knows how many hours or so it seemed, all I played was, whoops, wrong manual. Although without that added seventh. But I don't know about you, it's a piece that is often asked for at weddings. And what we have here, right at the end of it, is a sort of variation on it. And this works in a number of different ways. It sort of makes it slightly easier. What it also does is, if you're ever called upon to play this on an organ, which perhaps is only just a keyboard, no pedals at all, or just one manual, it's a version that enables you to do that. So it starts off with quite an easy little section at the beginning. So it's based on a chord, but not hugely familiar in terms of sounding exactly like a Pachelbel. That said, I think it's sort of instantly recognisable. There's a little bit later on. Now, that's first section. You can sort of go on repeating it as often as you want to when you get to the end there. There's a fairly modern thing where often before the bride enters at a wedding, you sometimes see the bridesmaids or maid of honour entering, and so they might have that as their procession, if you like. But then there's a section here, it says when the bride enters, and there's something that sounds a little bit more familiar. Sort of a florid in the same way as the Pachelbel Canon does. So if you're called upon to play Pachelbel's Canon, perhaps on a simpler organ than you might normally, or you're looking for an arrangement of it that's not too tricky, then here we are. So that's just a very quick whistle-stop tour through this little book. I actually find it invaluable. I have it on my iPad, and that means that wherever I go, I have a whole collection of music that will work on any keyboard instrument. It'll work on the finest, largest organ. It will work on something as beautiful but self-contained as the Schumacher instrument. It'll work on a one manual organ with no pedals. And there's so much material in here, and a variety of different styles and keys and moods. And so I recommend it to you. Free to download, and free to print out as well, and just to use. As you see, I've been playing it today from the paper copies. Well, thank you for joining me here in the cathedral, and I do hope that if you download it, that you have fun just trying out some of the different pieces, and that they are appreciated by your congregations when you try them out. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.